Mariela Castro displays none of the formalities of someone so close to the seat of power. She's director of the National Center for Sexual Education and uses this role to champion lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender issues. I began by asking this married mother of three what inspired her to take up the cause of LGBT rights.
I never imagined myself working on these issues. However, it was a concern of mine as a Cuban citizen, because I used to talk to many people since I was a young girl, and they told me about their sufferings. Then, since I was working on issues related to education in childhood and adolescence, and after meeting with a group of LGBT persons who asked me as director of Cenesex, asked me for support as to their necessities, I felt myself more committed.
To what extent do you think attitudes have changed in Cuba towards the gay community?
There's been a lot of change, not as much as we want, but there's been change. If you look at Cuba decades ago, I can tell you since some 10 years ago up to now, I have noticed significant change. And another good thing is our work has led to a dialogue in Cuban society. There is this dialogue.
One of Mariela Castro's tactics is to keep the issue in the public eye. For the past 7 years, she's organized gay pride parades to mark International Anti-Homophobia Day. The march is sanctioned by the government, yet in the early years of the Cuban Revolution, many homosexuals were sent to labor camps for rehabilitation and re-education. How much resistance have you faced? This is, after all, a very macho society.
Yes, of course I have perceived a lot of resistance, but I also perceive a lot of support from all walks of life and at all levels.
How did your father, Raul Castro, react when you started championing gay rights? In those early days of the revolution, he took a very hard line against homosexuals.
The whole Cuba society was hard on that, as well as all Cuban politicians and decision makers, except for a few cases. The whole world was the same. My father, we always discussed it. He supported me, and he would even tell me, fight for it, and win it. Do your work and convince the people. But as your father, I cannot help you.
Having your father as president may help legitimize the debate over gay rights, but it doesn't guarantee results. This year, the National Assembly did pass a new labor code which outlaws discrimination based on sexual orientation. But a clause on gender identity referring to transsexuals was dropped.
I am very disappointed because I had hoped that our assembly would do this. Nevertheless, it is another demonstration of the resistance to change and the prejudices that still dominate toward different sectors of Cuban society. This means that I have to continue working with more determination and with more intelligence. Making politics is difficult.
For the first time this year, you've taken up a more political role and become a member of Cuba's parliament, the National Assembly of People's Power. Why did you do that?
I always said that I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be a leader. I want to work at the level of the people. However, when you propose changes and when you want to achieve certain things at the political level, you have to participate in decision-making places that allow you to advance your proposals.
Do you have ambitions to go further? Am I talking to a potential future female leader of Cuba?
No, I have no aspirations as to that kind of responsibility.
We've talked about changes to gay rights in Cuba. What about the broader political and economic changes?
Cuban society is showing sort of opposite views, with those who want to advance faster and those who think you have to advance cautiously. the president in the latest assembly session, explained and declared the importance of experimenting before implementing changes, and that changes must be carried out very carefully.
So you think the pace of change is about right at the moment?
En el campo de algunos derechos que debemos trabajar, creo que debemos ir más rápido, porque son derechos.
I think that as to some rights we have to work on, we must go faster because they are rights. In the field of other mechanisms of social development, we must advance gradually to do them well.
Todos los resultados de los procesos, o sea, que la población esté bien informada de todo lo que se haga.
So faster on gay rights, but cautious on economic reforms.
Rápido en los derechos.
Quickly with rights, all kinds of rights, but be slow, careful, and profound in changes to the social structure and performance.
Modificaciones del funcionamiento y de la estructura social.
What further changes would you like to see?
Bueno, mira, la cobertura de Internet debería.
Well, look, the Internet coverage should be rolled out more quickly so that society can function better and participate more actively in the transformation process. The Internet is fundamental. Having Internet access is crucial. All changes entail risks, but also offer very positive possibilities.
Bueno, pues manejar y aprender de todo riesgo. No se puede tener miedo al desarrollo.
What about political change? So far, there's no signs of any move away from a one-party state. This is something the United States keeps insisting on as a condition for ending the trade embargo.
In the
case of Cuba, I think history has shown that a single party has provided the Cuban nation with strength and unity in the face of the permanent hostility by the United States, which wants to take over Cuba. Since this reality continues to exist, we are still a nation under hostile conditions and permanent aggression, such as the trade embargo, media campaigns, the financing of terrorist attempts against our people. We have to defend ourselves. In this regard, the single party has given us strength.
Are you saying that if the United States ended the embargo and restored full diplomatic relations, we might see an end to the one-party state here in Cuba?
In all certainty, and it's backed by scientific studies, if the trade embargo was lifted and if hostility by the United States and other powerful countries disappeared, it would be much easier for Cuba to make democracy.
Para Cuba sería mucho más fácil hacer democracia.
Mariela Castro, thank you.
Michael Voss in Havana, Cuba, thanks for that report. In 2008, Mariela Castro's campaigns helped spur the government to pass a law permitting sex change surgery in Cuba. The cost of the operation is free.
Coming up.
A ringleader who's using boxing to end fighting in the streets.
We help kids stay out of gangs. We encourage them to succeed. There is nothing to be gained from being out on the streets.
America's Now.